So I picked up a copy of SEGA Virtua Racing. A cool little cart, handy to have. I got a good deal on it. But it is handy to have in the sense that it's good to test against different types of hardware because you know, a lot of kind of clone systems and certain hardware don't really work well with the SEGA Virtua processor chip on it. So let's take a look at the board. Here we go. Here's the actual PCB itself. And the first thing I did when I got this is I actually cleaned the cartridge edge. When cleaning the cartridge edge, I use an eraser, and the one I use is these Stadler Mars plastic. I'm a 3D artist, but I do like traditional art sometimes just to kind of communicate ideas fast. And yeah, these are great for working with pencils. They leave no residue, so that's the reason I use them on cart edges. And of course I use a bit of IPA afterwards just to clean it up. But yeah, if you can find one of these, they're awesome for cleaning cart edges. But the first thing I noticed on this board is these caps, and they looked eerily similar to the Game Gear cartridges. Or the cartridges, rather, the Game Gear PCB with these kind of plastic kind of side-mounted capacitors. But if you'll notice, if we take the plus side here, you can see the plus side, the plus terminal on that capacitor. There's also a through hole area here to the side. So I just want to quickly check to see if they're connected. Have a look at the PCB, maybe get the multimeter out, beep it out. But I think that's probably there so that you know, if they couldn't get these, they could just mount other capacitors, through-hole capacitors, rather than these kind of more surface mount ones. So hopefully we get a beep. Yeah, we're connected. So yeah, they're definitely there so that they had options during production. If they couldn't find these specific type of capacitor, they could probably go with another one. So they're 47 microfarads, 6.3 volts. I don't have anything 6.3, but I do have the Nichicon 16 volts, so 47 microfarad, 16 volt. These probably don't need changing, but it's going to be no harm to change them anyways. So I'm probably going to do the same as I did with the Game Gear, in the sense that underneath each of these, it's a bit more apparent on this side, you can kind of see that little tiny bit of brown epoxy there. So I'm just going to kind of snap, get a little needle nose, snipe nose pliers, and just kind of rock that a little, just to like snap that little bit of epoxy off, and desolder the legs then. Yeah, so you just heard that pop there. So that should be that side. I'll flip it around to the other side. Just gently. You just want to hear a pop like that and you're done. Oh, so the plastic often just pops off those. I wouldn't worry about that. And indeed, that pop could have been the oh, there we go. So yeah, they're really annoying, those. You can see that it's going to leave the that pop was actually the plastic cracking. It wasn't the epoxy giving way. So come in here again. See if I can grab this. It's kind of coming off in bits there. Leave these ugly marks when you remove them. I will clean that with some IPA before I put in the new ones. But let's see if I can get the other one now. Grab it low down. Here, you can see that that one came up a lot better. came up as all in one piece. Then you're left with this nasty bit of epoxy here. I'm not going to scrape it, I'll just clean it as best I can. It's not going to injure the board in any way. So next we just need to lift those off, so just fire up the iron. Okay, so that's getting kind of warm, so I'm just going to grab it with the needle nose pliers and just lift it off like that. So what we want to do now is, I might just clean up those pads a little. Might be a bad idea. So I'm just going to get my solder wick. So when it comes to using solder wick, I like to cut a little piece off. That way the heat isn't conducting all the way up through all the wick in the spool. You're only kind of heating up this small piece of wick. That way when you go in on a ground plane or something, your wick is less likely to stick to the PCB. This isn't completely necessary. I could probably leave these pads as they are, but I'd like to just kind of keep them clean. Again, just float the wick over. You're not pushing or dragging, you're just kind of keep the heat applied all the way through and you should be fine. So they're nice clean pads. We'll do the same on the other side now. Kind of cutting off small pieces of wick like this as well saves wick. I notice I use a lot less of it. I'm only using little cut off pieces like this. It's hard to do this with the camera in the way. Alright, there we go. That should do. So I'm just going to get that bit of stuff off my cartridge, the thermal paste. I did reapply thermal paste to this before testing it yesterday. Whenever I get a new game, I always clean the cartridge. And with this particular game, because it has a little heatsink, I reapplied a small bit of thermal paste. Grease. It's not the best stuff. Some of the cheaper thermal pastes, the oil, the different kind of chemistry starts to separate. The oil separates from if they're left unused. So I'm just going to put, if we can see here, the positive leg, the longest leg is down here. So if we go, and basically the reason there's 3 is for the different size or pitch, or pin width capacitors. So for these, I think we're probably going to get away with the two closest. So we can put them in like that. So I don't know if you can see it there. Get you a better angle. But yeah, you can see that I've left this outer via, or this via, this side, empty. Basically for the different pitch devices that can go in there. So that should be at a right angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to just put my thumb here, so I want to bend it down towards the case like that. So it's at a right angle. And we'll put it in again. And there we go. So that should be nice and neat. So I'm going to solder this pin first, so I can adjust it. So I'm just going to load the tip. Small bit of solder. My iron's gone to sleep. Wake it up. Okay. Okay, solder took to that quite nice. I'm just going to inspect it from the other side. Okay, so this is ground, so it's being a bit obnoxious. So I'm just going to put the iron on there, touching both the pad and the component leg. And you'll see it change shape. You'll see the kind of solder sink down into the hole. There we go. That's a good joint. And just to make my life easier, I'm going to something nice and close. Flip the board around and manipulate it. I'm definitely going to have to clean the cartridge again. So, one more 4716 volts. This one's polarity is flipped compared to the other one. So, by that I mean, if we look at this side, the plus is closest to the cartridge, and up here, plus is up here on the other side. So for this one, I'm going to be using these two vias here. And this side. Clean the tip a little. There you can go. You can kind of see the solder begins to just settle in to the hole after it's been heated for a while. So just flip this over. You know what? That's good. It's hard to do with the camera in the way. Alright. Yeah, you'll kind of see it pop down eventually. Oh, and I bridged them. Well done, Dermot. So, in order to get rid of the bridge, just clean off the tip and just drag it out like that. It should be fine. Yeah, that was. I'm going to blame the camera for that one. Some people recommend that you snip the legs first because they kind of act as radiators for the heat. and when you're going into a ground plane, if you snip the leg, it can be sometimes easier to solder. Right guys, so there we go. I'm going to put this back in its case and we'll test it out. When I first got the cartridge shell, you can see that it's kind of, the plastic is fairly well worn. I gave it a rub down with Plastex, a trick I picked up from Gadget UK. Put a link to his channel here. Check it out if you haven't already. But yeah, I'd never really kind of washed it down, so it's kind of got a chalky kind of a look to it now. But yeah, because of its age, all these little micro scratches and stuff, like dirt and stuff, had adhered to it. And that all came off with the Plastex. But I think it needs a kind of a run with kind of traditional polish or back to black or something like that afterwards, just to kind of get rid of that kind of chalky residue. But yeah, with that said, let's get it back in its case. Okay, so we got Virtua Racing in there. I've got the OSSC kind of startup screen on there, so let's fire up Virtua Racing and see what we get. Ooh yeah. There we go. Nice. Cool. Still amazes me that the Mega Drive can do this. I know it's getting a lot of help from the SVP chip, but it's kind of cool to see 3D on a 16-bit system like this.